Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Aggieville Alleycats podcast, where come rain, shine, or anything in between, we're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news that you so love. I'm Ace Edwards, right alongside
Connor Baltazar.
And today we're going to be doing the weekly recap, including, to our surprise, a 2022 recruiting segment for football, then covering men's Catsketball, women's Catsketball, and baseball. And let's open with what is probably the best news of this week. Because, spoilers.
So not a lot of good news this week.
Not a fun week. Really bad week, actually.
That's what I would say. I would describe it that way.
Yeah. But in the football recruiting realm, we normally don't cover preferred walk-on offers. But this one is different because he is a 5.73 star on Rivals. Yeah. He's matched for, I think, our highest rated commit.
He is, yeah.
As a preferred walk-on, and that is linebacker Gavin Myers. And he was someone we were heavily pursuing during this previous season. In fact, you and I talked about him on the first ever episode. Don't go back and listen to it.
Don't.
That episode sucks.
It's not worth it.
It's not worth it. But we were thinking he was just going to be a genuine scholarship player, and then his recruiting kind of fell off the face of the earth and ended up somewhere in deep space. And now he will be joining the Kansas State Wildcats as a preferred walk-on.
Yeah, he has had a topsy-turvy recruitment. He's a linebacker out of Hays, Kansas. He was teammates with Jaron Kanak. 5A Defensive Player of the Year this year. I think he was last year as well.
Yeah.
And then he also was a state champion in wrestling in 5A. So all that is screaming, excellent football recruit. Why is he a preferred walk-on? And honestly, I think at least some of it has to do with his teammate, Jaron Kanak, taking away some of the shine from him. And also, a lot of it has to do with he kind of developed really early. Like his sophomore film was really excellent. And then he didn't really get a ton better from that point. And a lot of teams wanted to see more upward trajectory from him. And he went from looking like he might commit to Nebraska on scholarship to coming to K-State as a preferred walk-on. It's quite the shift in a recruitment. It's kind of the mirror image of Jaron Kanak's recruitment, where Jaron, they're both two recruits that bet on themselves in terms of getting offers, and it completely paid off for Jaron Kanak, who was a Clemson commit and then went to OU instead to follow Brent Venables, the defensive coordinator at Clemson and head coach at OU. And then Gavin Myers, he did the same thing, and it kind of backfired because a lot of teams backed off. A lot of it is because their linebacker rooms filled up. He just didn't commit soon enough, and the teams that wanted him ran out of space, and his offer sheet kind of capped out around last summer. And a lot of teams really kind of bumped the brakes on him, and they really didn't want to take him. But K-State was the one that stuck around for the longest and ended up taking him as a preferred walk-on, which this preferred walk-on class for K-State is phenomenal. It's about as good as a walk-on class can get. Alex Key out of Derby is another one. I don't want to get too far off track, but he's a very highly thought of offensive lineman.
Isaac Koch from Olathe North.
Yeah, he is as well. There's names that I'm forgetting right now, but there's several. I do know that we have a highly thought of kicker in this class. There's a few receivers, I believe, from the KC area. I know there's somebody else that I'm forgetting right now that is a very highly thought of walk-on. But I mean, the staff is continuing, if not improving, the old K-State tradition of bringing in very high-quality walk-ons. Granted, the Myers situation with his recruiting rankings, I think he was somebody that was probably a little bit overrated to begin with. He's a very high 3-star on Rivals. He probably should be on the lower 3-star, high 2-star side. 5.5 absolute max. But he's definitely a Power 5 player. It's if he's a Power 5 athlete is the question. And I really like the idea of giving him a preferred walk-on, letting Coach True work with him in the weight room for a while, try and improve some of his athletic traits, really get him focused, and try and get him on the track as maybe a Mike linebacker, possibly move him to an edge rusher spot if we can improve his explosiveness. But preferred walk-on ad is absolutely no risk for the staff So getting a guy that had scholarship offers from several Power Fives to take a walk-on offer is phenomenal.
Yeah. And, who knows? Maybe he ends up being a scholarship player. Because there's always 3 or 4 walk-ons every single year from K-State that end up making a scholarship.
Yeah.
Which I've never known if it's been retroactive.
I don't think it is.
That's fair.
Yeah. We've even seen with basketball where it only is effective for like one semester. Joe Petrakis last year, he got put on scholarship for just last spring, and then he ended up transferring because his scholarship ran out. But this year was Ben Sinnott and Austin Moore. They were just put on scholarship about a month ago, I believe.
Yeah.
So
last year it was Hennington, and then Ross?
I think it was Ross, yeah.
But, Ross boss.
Maybe Nick Allen as well.
Nick Allen, yeah.
So
anyway, so that's actually a really big preferred walk-on offer and commit for your Kansas State Wildcats, and definitely one of the few positions we'll have to talk about in the preview.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever that happens in 4 months,
I guess.
Yeah,
it's getting closer. It'll still be like 4 months, but
crawling towards it. But next up is men's Catsketball, and
unfortunately,
listen, every single time we've declared the season dead, we've been wrong. I can say with the utmost confidence that at least the NCAA tournament bid is dead.
Yep.
Unless we win the Big 12, which is not happening.
Yep. There's only one path from here on out, and that will involve beating at least 2 of the best teams in the conference. Beating OU this weekend will be absolutely huge for seeding purposes. And if we can beat OU, and if Iowa State loses, then we get the 6th seed, which means that we don't have to play in the first round, which would be massive. And that then changes things, getting that extra day of rest. And then in that situation, we would end up playing Texas Tech, most likely, which I honestly like that matchup comparatively to the other option, which is Baylor.
Yeah.
Baylor or KU is the other option. And I would much rather play Texas Tech, just because I think we match up with them well.
Yeah.
You can argue that they're a better team, but we're one of the few teams, I think, that really matches up with Texas Tech in a good way. Mm-hmm. And we handled them at home, nearly beat them on the road. We gave them the best fight on anybody on the road this year. So playing them at a neutral site should at least be interesting. And hopefully they can keep it close and steal a win. But that's kind of getting ahead of ourselves. We need to look backwards here first.
Yeah. The first game we have to talk about is the game versus Iowa State in Bramlage Coliseum, which I've just started spelling correctly about 2 days ago. I thought it was spelled with an E, but
unfortunately not.
I might be stupid.
You've insulted Fred. Bramlage.
Shame. I'm sorry, Frederick. Or Freddie, whatever your name is. But who knows?
Who's to say?
We're getting in the weeds again. This was, unfortunately, a loss, 74-73 in favor of Iowa State. The game opened really fun. We jumped out to a 13-2 lead. Everyone was getting really into it. Then we sort of tapered off. We started just by keeping pace with them. And keeping pace was enough because we were ahead by 11. So every time they would score. We would get one back. Then they slowly started ramping up their own pace, and we just could not keep up with it. And I'm not talking about pace as in speed that they played with. I'm talking about frequency of scoring and on how many possessions, football mind, possessions they ended up scoring on. And that's ultimately what cost us the game, despite a few really good performances from key players.
Yeah, this game, like you said, we got out to a really good lead. It's 13-2, and I leaned over to, I think it was either you or my girlfriend, and I was like, 13-2, we're leading. This is the exact same score that Iowa State led by.
It was me.
It was you. I'm very sorry.
and I looked at you, and I think I said something to the effect of, well, let's hope the outcome isn't the same.
And by halftime, we were losing. And it just was awful from that point forward. I mean, when we got out to that big lead, we were hitting our shots. Iowa State was not. I think they came out and like banked in a 3 or something.
Yeah.
Like that. Like they did something like when a team hits a bank 3 on us, it's bad news. No matter what the men's or women's, it's bad news. But Caleb Grill had the opposite game of what he had the first time we played Iowa State. He had 18 points on 6 of 10 from 3. He only took 3-point shots this game, and that was about all that he did. He added some rebounds. He had 6 of them, 1 assist, 2 turnovers, and a steal. But Caleb Grill, he was making us pay from 3-point range, unfortunately. Brockington added 17, and then Tyrese Hunter had 13 points, 10 assists, and 7 rebounds. And he and Marquise all had pretty similar games shooting, where they didn't really shoot that well, honestly, but they made a lot of free throws. But Iowa State, they just unfortunately shot really well, especially in the second half. They got to the free throw line a lot as well. 16 and 21 in the second half compared to just 2 of 3 in the first half. Really made some nice adjustments there. They took fewer 3-point shots as well, fewer field goals in general, just because they were getting fouled a lot more, or at the very least getting to the line a lot more, I should say. But K-State, once again, a phenomenal performance from Nigel Pack was wasted. The Cats are now 0-3 when Nigel Pack scores 30 or more, with those other games being against Baylor and KU at home, respectively. So Nigel is showing up for the big games. Nigel, when we have a big opponent or we have a must-win game, Nigel's there, but the rest of the team, it's pretty hit and miss. Normally it's miss.
Yeah, normally it's miss. But even with this one, we had 3 people that were in double digits, which normally it's good news for us. But
that was about where the help stopped. I mean, there was only 6 bench points from the team. Marquise Noel, he added 16. Granted, a lot of those points came very late because he was getting to the line a lot late in the game. He had 16 points, 1 of 7 from the field, 0 of 3 from 3. Then 14 of 16 at the free throw line because he was just driving and throwing it up at the end of the game. And he got to the line a lot, and that's what kept us in that game. He had 6 rebounds, 4 fouls, 4 assists, 3 turnovers, and 3 steals as well. Pack also had 2 steals to go with 2 rebounds and assists, 6 turnovers with his 32 points. But Marquise Noel, definitely not the most efficient game at all. He did help keep us in the game down the stretch. He did unfortunately injure his hamstring on a late game play where he was falling out of bounds and calling a timeout. He was able to get the timeout in, but he tweaked his hamstring a little bit, unfortunately. But Noel, he definitely kept us in it, but 3 turnovers to 4 assists. Not the greatest ratio. He played with 4 fouls for a while as well. Mark Smith, he added 12. 1 rebound short of a double-double. He fouled out very late in this game, and he had a turnover. He was 3 of 7 from the field, 1 of 4 from 3, 5 of 8 at the free throw line. And again, pretty solid game, but really hate to see him foul out late. Would have loved to have him on the floor down the stretch, but you lose him, I think, with about 2 minutes to go, 3 minutes to go.
Yeah, 2 or 3 minutes.
I think rounding out the starters, you got Mike McGurl, 6 points on 2 of 8 from the field, 1 of 6 from 3, 1 of 2 at the free throw line. He's really struggled shooting free throws recently.
Yeah.
And he had 3 rebounds, 4 fouls, 4 assists to 0 turnovers and 2 steals. So at least he was efficient there. Didn't turn over the ball a single time, and he had some nice assists. Then Davion Bradford also started. He had 1 point on 1 of 2 at the free throw line and 2 fouls. And that is it.
That's Davion, all right.
And then the remaining players, Ish Massoud played 27 minutes in this one, although he only had 2 points on 1 of 6 from the field, 2 rebounds, 1 foul, 1 turnover, 1 block, and 2 steals for Ish. He had some head-scratching moments, I felt, where he would drive and kind of get under the bucket, and sometimes wasn't taking the greatest shots on earth, but generally wasn't the worst. He was probably a little better than Davion. At least offensively, because he was a threat to score. Davion didn't get a shot up in 11 minutes, other than the one where he was fouled. Then he split the free throws. Selton, he played 19 minutes, had 2 points, 1 of 3 from the field. Airball to 3 as well, pretty late in this one.
It was a bad air ball, too.
It was a really rough airball. He was wide open and just missed it. He was on the right wing and missed it, airballed it to the left. And it was ugly. He added 3 rebounds, 2 fouls, 2 turnovers, and a steal. Although he did play some great defense, that is his calling card. And I think we probably told him to cut down on the shot attempts because that's what teams wanted, at least for this game. And then Lucas Subke, he added 4 minutes and had a turnover. So that does it for the stats. They shot 33 free throws as a team. Nearly half of those were Marquise Noel. Yeah. And we had 25 makes, over half of which were Marquise Noel. So 25-33 on the game. 32% from 3. We had 8 3-point makes as a team. 6 of them were Nigel, Mark, and Mike. They split the remaining 2. And we didn't shoot awfully this game, but we didn't shoot well when we needed to. I think is the biggest thing. Like, we started off really hot, but I don't know. We left a lot on the floor, and also at the end, I felt like we were really gifted. A lot of the
we had so many chances.
Yeah. Iowa State. I hate to say it, but Iowa State, they really did have some tough luck with the officiating. I will grant them this. They did. Especially on one of the 5-second calls where it was verifiably like 4 seconds.
Yeah, it was verifiably not 5 seconds.
Yeah, you go back and look at the replay. It was 4 seconds. 2 of those seconds, the guy was not even holding the ball. So it's a little bit of a quick trigger from the official there. Granted, there were some awful calls. The officials just could not figure out what a block or charge was this whole game.
No.
There was a pretty bad call that went our way, and there was also a really bad call that went Iowa State's way with Mark Smith, especially with the precedent having been set up earlier on the previous call that went Iowa State's way. I don't remember the exact moments, the exact times, but there were some very sketchy moments with block and charges. Granted, that's kind of consistent with what we've seen from the Big 12 officiating.
Yeah.
The KU game, which had surprisingly few awful calls, had the one where where Jalen Coleman lands was all the way in the restricted arc and moving and got called, and then he got the charge call to go his way.
Yep.
It's like, oh my god. But I honestly think it's Big 12 officials. I think they really want to call charges. I think that's what it is because the charge sign is cool.
It's really fun.
And it's such a huge impact on the game. And it's rewarding defense. And I think that officials just really want to make that call. They want to be able to, send it the other way for an offensive player being too aggressive.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is hurting the game, especially just because it doesn't really seem like anybody has a consistent definition on what is and isn't a charge. And this isn't baseball.
Varies from game to game.
Yeah, this isn't baseball. We're not talking about strike zones here. We're talking about charges and blocks. So, it's a pretty cut and dry definition of what it is and isn't.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, this game was painful, and we thought that you and I privately said, yeah, our tournament chances are done after this game. And lo and behold, it got worse with the next game in Texas Tech in Lubbock. It was a loss, 68-73. So I didn't know. Apparently, Texas Tech fans don't like us because they started a particular chant. We didn't do that with them. Personally, I don't dislike Texas Tech. I don't. I think they're cool. I like the tortillas. Yeah. I think that's funny. Maybe it's 23 personnel, that pod. Maybe it's skewing my view a little bit. But anyway, next game was Texas Tech.
Yeah.
It was another close game, and we mentioned earlier that Marquise Noel actually tweaked his hamstring, so he was unavailable for this game. And honestly, looking at the score, Marquise may have been the difference if he were playing.
Yeah.
But we don't want to be all negative. There's one person in particular, when you look at the stat line, that, you know what, he had a good day. And it's not someone that we're used to having a great day, much less the leading scorer. In fact, you could say that about the top 2 people. But, of course, Connor has you for those.
Yeah, Mike McGurl led the team in scoring this game. He had the hot hand. King McClure on the broadcast was just absolutely loving this like floater that Mike McGurl had, where he was like, I've never seen him do that before. And I'm like, that's a really routine floater through the lane. I can almost guarantee that you've seen him do that before, King McClure. I just don't think you remember. But Mike McGurl had 18 points. He played all 40 minutes in this game. 7 of 15, 3 of 8 from 3, 1 of 3 at the free throw line. Again, continuing his struggles from the free throw line, which is so strange considering that he's a really good outside shooter. But 5 rebounds, 4 fouls, one of which we'll come back to. 2 assists, 2 turnovers, and a steal. Yeah. Ace was looking at the referees and who was refereeing, and he's witnessed John Higgins, his mortal enemy.
Person who almost got me booted from a game.
Yep. Going down the list, Selton Miguel. He played 37 minutes in this one. He had 14 points on 4 of 9 from the field. Actually made a 3-point basket, his first 3 of 2022. He has not made a 3 in Big 12 play. And he finally got one down, which good for him. Like I cringed internally and externally when he shot it. And I was like, why are you doing this, Selton? And then I went in and I was like, you know what?
Oh, good job, Selton.
More power to you. Actually, I take that back. But good for you.
Good for you, Selton.
Yeah, he 14 points, 4 of 9 from the field, 1 of 3 from 3, 5 of 6 at the free throw line as well. He had 2 rebounds, 2 fouls, 1 assist, 3 turnovers, and a steal. This is the most Selton stat line of all time, except he scored more.
Yep.
Got to the foul line a lot. Another one of those was a little suspect. There was some I was going to say suspect. I'm just going to say bad officiating down the stretch. Mm-hmm. But Nigel Pack, he had 13 points in this game, 38 minutes. Again, all the starters played 35 minutes or more in this one. Pack, 5 of 14 from the field, 3 of 8 from 3, 3 rebounds, 2 fouls, 3 assists, 2 turnovers, and a steal. Mark Smith rounded out the double-digit scores with 11 points, 2 of 5 from the field, made his 1 3-point attempt, 6 of 6, a perfect 6 of 6 at the free throw line, had 6 rebounds, 2 fouls, an assist, 2 turnovers, and a steal. Then Ish Massoud actually started this game in place of Davion Bradford. He played 35 minutes, had 8 points, made 2 3-pointers, was 2 of 4 from 3, and 2 of 3 at the free throw line. A rare miss at the free throw line for Ish. He's only missed, I think, 3 free throw attempts this year.
Yeah.
Like 3 or 4, very small amount. And he had 3 rebounds, 3 fouls, 2 turnovers, a block, and 4 steals for Ish. He clogged the passing lanes really well in this game. It was negating the skip pass for Texas Tech really well.
Marquise lended him some of his ability.
I think that's what it was. But
from New York to New York.
That's got to be it. That's the only conceivable explanation. Just the New York connection between them. Sure. But then Lucas Subke, he came off the bench for 7 minutes, made 1 basket and missed a 3-point attempt, had an offensive rebound, 2 fouls, good for 2 points. Davion Bradford played 5 minutes, made 2 free throws, and then had a rebound and 3 fouls. I don't know how he picked up 3 fouls in 5 minutes. Doing Davion things, I guess.
And you got to give him credit. He gets his free throws.
He was just up to some Davion activities, getting those fouls really quickly. But K-State, this game was a very painful loss, especially because this was not one that we were expected to even be close in.
Expected us to get schwacked.
I was fully expecting us to roll over and get absolutely destroyed in this game, because the closest game that Texas Tech had at home this year was an 8-point victory. I think it was against KU. And then we come in and only lose by 5. I'm not counting that as a moral victory. I'm just impressed that we hung around.
Yeah, no moral victories, but like, how?
I was shocked that we were able to hang around as well as we did. We led for a non-insignificant part of the first half as well. Mike was really hot to begin the game. He had, I think, 11 points like in 10 minutes to start the game. And we just generally played pretty well this game, all things considered. We played a really good second half. We played a complete game. We were kind of falling apart at the end of the first half, and the second half we came back and looked pretty solid for the most part. Although we were really lacking with field goals in the second half. Only 9 made field goals. 5 of them were threes. But we did go 14 of 17 at the free throw line in the second half. Free throws have been keeping us in our most recent games. I mean, Selton 5 of 6, Mark 6 of 6 at the free throw line. That is keeping you alive. Davion going 2 of 2. Again, another big one. Yeah, but Texas Tech, they just played with a much deeper bench in this game as well. Is another important thing to note. They played 10 players, including former Last Chance U star KJ Allen. And
I forgot about that.
Yeah, he was in the Last Chance U basketball. And
Where? Plus Mark.
But in K-State only played 7 guys in this game. Casey didn't see the floor, and Marquise was unfortunately injured. So you have a 7-man rotation, and you're only getting 12 minutes out of your bench guys. I mean, that's rough. Mike playing all 40, and then 38 from Nigel and Mark, Selton and Ish rounding out the starting lineup. But, I mean, there were some pretty suspect calls down the stretch. I'm not going to say we lost because of officiating, but it
didn't help.
It definitely didn't help, and it hurt more than it usually does. I'm sure that a lot of K-State fans are already familiar with it. I will start off by saying that there was a pretty not great call against Bryson Williams of Texas Tech against Selton Miguel when he was driving to the bucket on a fast break. It was called a blocking foul by Williams as he jumped pretty straight up. I think the only argument you can make is he kind of jumped into him, but he was completely straight up, didn't really lean into him or anything, didn't really affect him too much, and got called for the foul. Selton ended up only making one of the 2 free throws, so ultimately it was inconsequential in that regard, but it still was not a great call, and this was when the game was a 1-possession game back and forth constantly. But the 2 calls I do want to kind of briefly talk about is just especially the Mike McGurl foul that he got late on the defense of the entry pass to Bryson Williams. I thought that was arguably worse than the missed call in Nigel that happened just a few seconds later. But Mike,
they weren't having a good 15 seconds.
No, Mike. To just try and describe this play, a player on the wing for Texas Tech was throwing the ball into Bryson Williams. Big 12 Player of the Year candidate. He won't win it, but he's a candidate. And the point is he's really good and we don't have anyone that can defend him on their own. They throw the ball into him. We have Ish on him, man up, and Mike comes over to help. He sees the pass come. And as Bryson Williams is backing up to try and catch the ball, Mike puts his arm out and punches the ball out. From the only angle that we get, it does not look like Mike even comes close to hitting Bryson Williams in any way before he touches the ball. He makes contact with his body well after he has knocked the ball away. But at that point, that's fair game because, at least as I understand it, because Mike, he made a play on the ball. He has that right to it. And Mike gets called for an inexplicable foul. And then the broadcast just does not show us what happened. This happened a few times. The broadcast did not feel like reliving the previous errors that had just been seen. And then Tech makes 2 free throws. Nigel comes down the floor, takes a 3 with about 15 seconds left, 20 seconds left. And replay, it looks like a foul. It looks like he gets his arm hit. And nothing gets called. And from there, Texas Tech just makes free throws, extends their lead, and K-State ends up losing, unfortunately. But it was really tough sledding. And this was not a game I was prepared to be hurt by.
Yeah, we thought we'd get smoked.
I definitely thought we'd get smoked in this game. I didn't think we had a chance. And then we had hope, and it was snuffed out. This team just really hurts my heart sometimes. Because I love them.
That's K-State.
I really do. K-State does just hurt my heart, honestly.
You have an excuse. You were born into it. I don't. I chose this.
Yeah, like people are just like, why don't you just? Like, people ask me, why don't you just like choose a new team? And I don't have like a logical explanation, other than I would be a bandwagoner, and I don't like bandwagoners. That's basically my thing.
Plus, you go here.
Plus, I go here.
Plus ratio.
Plus ratio. Plus don't ask.
Plus didn't. Yeah.
Also we forgot to mention the microcosm of the season with Iowa State game. We're going to rewind time a little bit and go back to the Iowa State game where after Iowa State hits 2 free throws to go up 74-70, Nigel Pack runs down the floor, hits a half-court 3-point shot as the buzzer sounds, so we can, and he makes it. He makes it, and we lose by 1. And
you and I just start laughing.
Yeah, it was depressing. It was soul-crushing, but we both saw the irony of us making the last-second desperation heave and converting it just to come up short anyways. That's basically a microcosm for this season.
Yeah. And
that we do so much, and we actually do make the comeback, and it ultimately doesn't matter.
Yep.
We blow it anyways.
Yeah.
And we end up losing regardless.
That's K-State, baby.
Yeah, that's the difference between teams that deserve to be in the tournament and not. And it's basically luck, honestly.
Yeah.
So, but, and then also, I thought it was really weird that Texas Tech was chanting the chant that they were.
Yeah, like, what did we do to y'all?
Yeah, like, I'm not mad about it.
I mean, I guess we beat them.
Yeah, but there's not really an active rivalry between Tech and K-State. I thought it was odd. I'm not mad about it. I'm more just curious as to why, unless they just do that to everybody, in which case, that's okay.
That's fair.
Like, I don't really care too much about student section chants.
No.
And
the students do what they want. Yeah.
Like, obviously, there's, like, a line, but there's not really many times I think that's even come close to being crossed by most teams. Like, so I just thought it was odd, if nothing else.
Yeah, because I've always kind of consider there to be, like, pods of Big 12 schools. I've always associated K-State, Oklahoma State, and Texas Tech as one pod that just can't hate each other.
They're a pretty good natural fit, especially K-State and Oklahoma State. Tech, they fit better as well, and they especially fit well because their AD, former K-State football player and grad, Kirby Hocutt. So there's the K-State connection there. So we control Tech through the deep state, basically, is what we're saying.
We're gonna hire away their head coach.
Joey McGuire is coming here. Or you're talking about basketball?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'll take Mark Adams, a.k.a. the librarian. But, I don't care if he looks like a librarian. He wins games. That's all I care about.
Just win, baby.
I just win. That fixes all problems. But this is a really valiant effort by K-State in this game against Tech. They gave Tech a better fight than anybody had against them. Although Tech does end up getting the win. They hold on, and they end up going a very impressive, I think, 18-0 at home this year.
I think they were undefeated at home.
Yeah, that is phenomenal, and they deserve credit for pulling off a stunt like that. I mean, that's a hard place to win right now. Chris Beard leaving Tech has somehow emboldened them even more, and you have to respect them for it. So good on you, Tech. They're going to be, it's going to be awful to face them in the tournament. Whoever comes up with them, because they're going to be a 3 seed, but they're going to be better than a 3 seed, I think, like in terms of talent.
Yeah.
Because I think Tech is, in terms of true talent and how they've been playing as a unit, I think they're probably a high 2 seed. They're going to be a middle 3 seed. They're going to be very underrated, and some teams are going to run into a buzzsaw that they were not expecting. And so, I don't know, K-State, they played admirably, shorthanded, and I don't know. This is yet another microcosm of the season where, they play really well against an opponent that no one expected them to play well against in a really difficult environment, and they do it all when they aren't full strength. And this is another game where you look at it, if K-State has a quality big, they probably win.
Yeah.
They would probably get out of town and sweep Tech this season.
Yep.
It's going to be a season of what-ifs for K-State, but
we don't live in what-ifs, we live in nows.
Yep.
Which that leads us to the next sport we're going to be covering in women's Casketball. And if you think that it gets better from here, I got bad news for you.
It does not. It gets worse.
Yeah. First game was up against Oklahoma in Norman, We ended up losing this game 69-72, which, while nice, is not. And I want everyone to keep in mind, Oklahoma was the school that Yoki dropped 61 against. And you're stupid if you think that they didn't have that as bulletin board material.
Yeah.
And it shows. It shows. Not because Yoki didn't do anything, but because she was a far cry from scoring 66. But this was another game where we got so close to winning, and it looked like we had finally overcome our offensive ineptitude on the road. It finally looked like we were crossing over that hump.
Right.
And then Oklahoma just, decides to push ahead with a long three in the last 10 seconds of the game. And then we don't come up with a good enough response. They ended up winning it. And it was just overall another painful way to lose, and no moral victories. Oklahoma was ranked 20 or I think 19th in some rankings, but no moral victories. That being said, there are two performances that I really want to highlight before Connor goes into stats, and that's Serena Sundell and Laura Mackey. Serena Sundell earns her 87th Big 12 Freshman of the Week award, which honestly, if she doesn't earn Big 12 Freshman of the Year, I would be shocked.
I mean, she's at the point where she's in the National Freshman of the Year category, I think. I don't know if she'll win it, but she's in the conversation.
Yeah, same with Ayoka Lee being National Player of the Year.
Yeah.
I still think she has a chance of winning it. In fact, I still think that I would take her over the field if I were a betting man, but I'm not. But the other person I want to highlight is off the bench, Laura Mackey getting 28 minutes, scoring 17 with 2 steals. Sorry to steal your thunder there with mentioning the stats, but those are two performances that they both outscored Yoki, but I feel like we've fallen into this trap, and everyone has, of this team just being Yoki. It's not. She's arguably the piece that makes it go the most, but she's not the only piece on the team. You have Serena Sundell, who's been an excellent ball distributor. You've had the Glenn twins, who have been pretty good do-it-all pieces. Then you've had Laura Mackey, who's been a pretty decent shooter, except for these last couple of games, which she's kind of turned it around a little bit. And even people like Simone, for as much grief as we give Simone, she's still a pretty solid contributor to the team throughout this entire year. That's neither here nor there. I'm stalling. We lost this game. Connor has stats.
Yeah, Serena Sundell played an excellent game. Maybe her best game of the season, even. Against a really quality opponent, she had 24 points on 9 of 16 from the field, 5 of 9 from 3, 1 of 2 the free throw line. Added 3 rebounds, just 1 foul in a full 40 minutes, and she had 7 assists and no turnovers in this game with 2 steals. Just a phenomenal stat line from the freshman Serena Sundell, who I just learned yesterday did not even play point guard in high school. She was an off-ball guard, and this is the first time she's ever playing point guard.
She did what?
Yeah, she was a shooting guard last year, and she all of a sudden is taking on D1 responsibility for ball handling, and she's been phenomenal as a freshman.
Okay, I'll call my shot. She's going to be better than Yoki next year. All right.
Yeah, if she can develop,
I'll call it.
Yeah, she has a very high ceiling. She needs to develop from a strength perspective, I would say. Needs to get a little bit more consistent on her outside shooting, and maybe get a little bit more laterally quick. But a lot of that's honestly going to come naturally from learning to go from off-ball guard to point guard and running the offense. And as a true freshman, her first experience doing that, she's already doing an excellent job. So it's hard to be upset with that. This is a team I'm really... It saddens me that we have to look at them from a developmental perspective, because there was a point in time in this season where we were looking at a Big 12 championship run, and that's well in the past by now, as this team has really just hit a wall recently. The youth has finally caught up to them. Yeah. But moving on, to cover other starters, Ayoka Lee, she had 13 points, 6 of 13 from the field, made her lone free throw attempt, had 11 rebounds, 4 fouls, 3 turnovers, and then a whopping 6 blocks with 4 steals as well. So she led the team in blocks and steals as well as rebounds in this game. Just another great performance, but again, only 13 field goal attempts, only 6 makes, and only 1 free throw attempt as well. Teams are really finally figuring out how to defend Ayoka Lee.
Disposable body strategy.
Yeah, literally just play as many people as possible and just basically bump her around, and it works, because especially when you're not in the bonus, because you just, even though she is a good free throw shooter, you still want to just try and throw her shot off, and officials are not calling fouls on her or against her very much this year. They are basically letting them play in the post, and the result of that is Ayoka Lee getting pushed around a lot because she just isn't matching up. I mean, when she's getting double teamed and they're both pretty much just pushing her as she's shooting, and they're not going to call anything, there's not a whole lot that she can do, but she's just going to have to get used to it, because that's how teams are going to play her since she's that good, and there's not a legitimate way to stop her.
Yeah, and there's outside shooting has been sus.
Yeah, and until the shooting gets better, it's going to be open season on Ayoka Lee. Teams are just going to double team her and dare you to shoot from the outside. All of this was a game where K-State finally got out of its 3-point woes, and they shot 41% from 3, which was better than they shot from the rest of the field. But they only had 6 free throw attempts in this game and made 4 of them. So you'd love to see more trips to the line in the future. But, can't complain too much.
Yeah.
But other starters, the Glenn twins, neither of them had particularly phenomenal games. Briley had 8 points, 3 of 9 from the field, 2 of 3 shooting. Fouled out in this one, had 3 rebounds and 2 steals. Jalen had 3 points, 1 of 5 from the field and from 3. 4 rebounds, 1 foul, 3 assists, no turnovers, 2 steals. And then Emily Ebert only played 13 minutes in this one despite starting, but she had 2 points on 1 of 7 from the field, 0-2 from 3, 2 rebounds, 3 fouls, no assists, 3 turnovers, and a block. Not the best day for Emily Ebert, but you win some, you lose some, unfortunately, if you're Emily, because most of her game, if the shots aren't falling, some of it starts to fall apart. But Laura Mackey is the surprise of this game, because she's not known as, an excellent shooter from range. She is really good up close, but she doesn't get a lot of opportunities, because your opportunities up close are probably going to Ayoka Lee.
Yeah.
But Mackey has the benefit of not being auto double teamed, and so she comes away with 17 points in this game. She plays 28 minutes off the bench, 7 of 14 from the field, 1 of 2 from 3, 2 of 3 at the free throw line, 2 rebounds, 2 fouls, 4 assists, 3 turnovers, and 2 steals. Really stuffed the stat sheet, did Laura Mackey, and had her best game on the season, maybe the best game of her career at K-State as well. Then you get into a few other bench pieces, and it's pretty tough sledding for them. Simone Goodrich played 15 minutes, had 2 points, 1 of 4 from the field, had 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 turnovers, the most Simone stat line of all time.
Yeah.
Not really making her shots, getting some rebounds, having some nice assists, but also having some boneheaded plays. That's just what you're going to get with Simone. She's basically Marquise Noel with lesser volume, and that's what it is.
Moments.
She'll have some moments. I live with it. But Rebecca Dollinger got her first minutes in a while, missed a 3-point attempt, and had a foul in 4 minutes, and that's it. And Taylor Lauterbach played 1 minute and missed a field goal. But most of the scoring came from 3 people, with it being Serena Sundell, Laura Mackey, and Ayoka Lee. And this was just a painful loss as well. Cats trailed by 3, 69-66, and then Laura Mackey hit a huge 3 with about 25 seconds left to tie the game at 69. And then as the buzzer sounded, OU hit a 3 on the wing to win 72-69.
And then I ordered my first drink at Tanner's.
Yep.
I ordered a second.
Ace and I were at Tanner's when that happened, and it was just an absolute soul crusher, especially after the Iowa State game, because we
were not having a fun night.
Yeah, we've been at the Iowa State game earlier, and witnessed that painful defeat, and then we got to see this on a small TV. I think we're the only people in there even moderately paying attention.
Yeah.
And
I was the only one throwing up threes.
Yeah. And but it was just a really tough loss to watch this, because this is a team that needed a road win so bad.
Yeah.
And they just weren't able to get it. I was not able to watch a majority of this game because it was on Bally Sports.
Yeah, wait. Oh!
Yeah, like as if more things need to be on Bali Sports.
Yeah,
Thanks, OU.
I think they cover baseball more than they do anything else.
Yeah, and they did have a lot of soccer, but Sporting KC restructured their team or their TV deal because Bali Sports is terrible.
Cool.
But this is just a heartbreaking loss for the women's basketball team. And it's a game you really want to get a sweep in Big 12 play, but they can't quite pull it off. They'll have one more opportunity with TCU coming up, and TCU really not being a particularly great team. Knock on wood.
Yeah, well, neither was West Virginia.
No, they were not. But this team,
Spoilers.
They still have a shot to get a season sweep, bolster their resume at least a little bit, just prove that they can win somewhere that isn't Bramlage Coliseum. And I don't know, this team has a lot of potential, but for now, that's all it's going to be is potential, because they just are not able to get over the hump, and they've been unable to figure it out offensively when the shots aren't falling. And even they've shown that even if the shots are falling, it might not matter anyways.
Yeah. Then the next game happened. This was the final home game, senior night in Bramlage Coliseum, up against the West Virginia Mountaineers. K-State ended up falling 74-62. Among the events of this game was me getting bullied for wearing a Chiefs jersey, which apparently that's a faux pas. Apparently.
Who would have known?
I could have happened to anybody.
I guess.
But other than that, this was a game that K-State had well in hand for every single quarter except the first one and the second overtime. In the second overtime, we very simply died. That is the only way to describe it. We suddenly just lost any ability that we had. After an alright shooting day, we could not shoot to save our lives.
Yep.
I will say that the lone male referee in the student section formed a special bond where we weren't screaming at him for being a moron. In fact, we made heart hands at him. He pointed at us and winked at us. So maybe we won him over. So Bill, if you're out there.
Ace is making heart hands right now, Bill, if you're listening and not watching. So
love you, Bill. But in all seriousness, this was another painful game where we had every opportunity to win. Every single opportunity to run away with this game. And we just didn't.
Yeah. I was not able to watch a lot of this game. I had prior obligations. I was able to catch most of the first quarter on my phone. And then I was able to catch the very end of the fourth quarter and then the first overtime, and then I listened to the second overtime and I was driving to go get Canes. So I got to see basically every bad part of this game, or listen to every bad part of this game, and I missed all of the good parts.
Yep.
So maybe that means I just shouldn't watch anymore. Which granted, I was present when Aoka Lee dropped 61, although there's some that would argue that it broke the team. But
a lot of people who would argue that.
Yeah. West Virginia upends K-State by double digits at home on senior night, which is, after 4 quarters, probably the last result that you would have expected. But after 1 quarter, you would have definitely expected it, because West Virginia shot out to a huge lead, 19-7 after 1, and K-State fights back and has a dominant third quarter. In the fourth quarter, people forgot how to make shots.
Everyone. That's just everyone.
K-State, from what I could tell, had plenty of chances to win this game in regulation and in the first overtime. And the second overtime, I truly think they just ran out of gas. I think that's got to be what happened. That's the only way I can explain it in a way that doesn't make me want to rip my hair out. And even then, it still really upsets me, because this team is basically like a better version of the men's team, where they're really one more piece away, maybe 2, from being much better than 18-11 and 8-9 in Big 12 play. This is by now a 20-win team with double-digit maybe 12 wins by this point if they have Rachel Ranke and Heavenly Greer, I think.
And with next year, Eliza Moppet.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't want to make this about next year, but because we keep saying it, but Rachel Ranke, Eliza Moppin, Heavenly Greer, whenever she gets back from the NCAA Shadow Realm.
Yeah. She's just stuck in the void right now. We may never see her again, but if we do, I think she'll be really good.
She's stuck in purgatory somewhere.
Yeah. Who knows why? NCAA. They won't tell us, though.
No one knows. But you have K-State stats.
Yeah. This game, K-State, shooting wise.
Yeah, I figured we went 0 of 5 and 0 of 6. Oh my god. Oh.
It's a rough night shooting the ball. Just 19 made field goals and 4 made threes for 31% from the field, 16% from 3. Serena Sundell and Jalen Glenn, they go a combined 4 of 20 from 3. But Aoka Lee does have a pretty solid game. She has 24 points in 41 minutes, 9 of 16 from the field, 6 of 9 at the free throw line, 10 rebounds for the double-double. She had 4 fouls. She sat on 4 fouls for quite a while, as I recall. Then she had no assists, 3 turnovers, a block, and a steal. So it's a quality game from Aoka Lee. Then Serena Sundell had a very, very up-and-down game. Horrible shooting night for Serena. 49 minutes. So fatigue's definitely setting in for Serena Sundell, the freshman there. 15 points, 3 of 16 in the field, 2 of 10 from 3, 7 of 10 at the free throw line, 6 rebounds, 4 fouls, and 7 assists to 9 turnovers. Just completely unacceptable. I get that Serena Sundell's a freshman, but you have to take better care of the ball.
Yeah, 3 of those.
9 turnovers.
I think 3 of those were in the overtimes. She was gassed.
Yeah.
Like I obviously I don't know because I am not her, nor am I a coach, nor did I talk to her. But you could tell that she, just from where I was sitting, she was gassed.
Yeah, I would be gassed too after playing 49 out of 50 minutes of a regulation basketball competition.
And being the main ball distributor.
Yeah. So it's understandable, but it's really frustrating. But all things considered, 7 assists, still nice. But Jalen Glenn, 3 of 13 from the field, 2 of 10 from 3, not much better than Serena. Just 1 fewer minute, and had 2 rebounds, 2 fouls, 2 assists, 2 turnovers, and a steal. Good for 8 points. And Emily Ebert had 7 points, all of them at the free throw line, 7 of 10 in 27 minutes. Didn't make a single field goal on 2 tries. Had 7 rebounds, then 2 fouls, 2 assists, 2 turnovers. Then rounding out the starters, Briley Glenn only played 35 minutes in this one.
She had a scary moment where I thought she snapped her ankle in
Really?
the middle. Yeah. She had to be helped off the court. She ended up returning later in the game, but there was a genuine scary moment where everyone in the arena thought she just absolutely snapped her ankle.
Yeah, I was unable to watch in that moment, so I was unaware. I was completely unaware that happened.
Yeah.
But, so thank you for sharing this.
I think that was either... Oh, was it Briley? I think it was Briley.
It had to have been Briley because Jalen played 48 of 50 minutes, right?
Yeah, so it was Briley. That was scary.
Yeah.
She came back, but still.
Yeah. Briley still didn't have the best game, although that kind of explains why. But
this happened late. She did a lot of that before she went out.
Okay, never mind. That doesn't explain it. I retract my statement.
Yeah.
But she had 4 points, 2 of 8 from the field, 0 of 3 from 3, missed both her free throws, 2 rebounds, 4 fouls, an assist, and a steal. Then, rounding out the players that saw the floor, senior night for Simone Goodrich and Laura Mackey. Simone had 4 points, 2 of 3 from the field, 1 rebound, a foul, no assist, 2 turnovers. Laura Mackey, 0 of 3 from the field, 0 of 1 from 3, 5 rebounds, 2 fouls, no assists, 2 turnovers, a block, 2 steals. Rebecca Dollinger had a foul and a turnover in 8 minutes of play, and Taylor Lauterbach had a block. And
Taylor Lauterbach.
But she's not scored in a while, so you'd love to see that going forward. But second quarter and third quarter were the golden moments for this team. They went 63% and 66% from 3 in the second quarter. Third quarter, only 45%, but they made 11 of 11 free throws in that quarter. So did really well there. But then 3 of 17 shooting in the fourth quarter, 0 of 3 in overtime, and 1 of 5 in the second overtime. Really, really, really rough. down the stretch. Didn't make a single 3-pointer from the second half onward. That's a combined 0 of 13 in the final 2 quarters of regulation and 2 overtimes. This is a very winnable game that K-State completely blew. This is not a good West Virginia team, or they're not an awful team, but they're not the best. They're 14-13, 7-10 in the Big 12 Conference. Absolutely winnable game, I would say. Yeah. But this team ran out of gas where it seemingly didn't matter as much for a more experienced West Virginia team where Madison Smith had 22 points and played all 50. And Esmeralda Martinez had 22 points in 42 minutes. So, granted, they played with a bench that contributed a little bit more, not a lot more, but a little bit more, and had maybe some more productive minutes. But this K-State team is just not very deep right now at all. They truly have their 5 starters, and then you're going to get one bench player a game that's going to be quality. It's going to be either Simone or Laura.
Yeah.
Because Dollinger has not been performing at her highest level recently, and Lauterbach has been the same. But again, this is a young team. They're learning. I'm not ready to give up on them yet, but it's been a very frustrating stretch for the K-State women who, after their high peaks, are below 500 in Big 12 play in 18-11 on the season.
Yeah. One thing I will say before we move on to baseball is West Virginia had a single person foul out. I just remembered this. It was Kari Nyblock. She was a spoil sport and refused to sit down after the student section was trolling her. So every single time that she moved even a little bit, even like 20 minutes after she fouled out, we would count her steps. She refused to sit down. She just did not do it.
That sounds really tiring. Also, how'd she foul out in 20 minutes? Jeez.
She was in foul trouble early, and then it just got worse.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Not a great week for the women's Catsketball team.
It's not going to get much better.
It doesn't. We're going to be talking about the K-State baseball team. They had a series against California State. I said it right this time. Cal State University, Bakersfield. We ended up losing 2 out of 3 of this series. Before we talk about the series as a whole, let's go over the individual games, and we'll try and keep it short and sweet. We'll only cap off just the big moments. Not going to go through everybody, but in terms of K-State in the first game, this was a loss 4-3, and this was a game where we were tied going in. We ended up having 2 extra innings. We ended up leaving in a couple of players in too long, noticeably Tyson Neighbors, who ended up, I think, walking the bases loaded.
Yes, he did, as I recall, and you look through here, you have a walk, then 2 groundouts, so you have another walk, a hit by pitch, and then a walk to put a runner home. So you get to 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th and cannot put the win away, and then basically on your own send it to extra innings, because Cal State Bakersfield, they basically stay in this game without having to hit the ball.
Yep.
And it was entirely self-inflicted. You have a 3-0 walk there, then 2 groundouts on a sac bunt, and then another ground out, and then 3-0 walk, hit by pitch on 2-2, then full count walk to send the run home. Then Tyler Rule has to come in, and he forces a pop-up on a full count. But this game was very frustrating. I don't know the exact statistics because I don't think that they track runners left on in the box score, but actually, no, they do.
They do. We can check it. It was 5. We had 5 runners left on.
Yeah, it was 5, which is not as many as I thought. Bakersfield did have 10, but I think there was a game here where we did leave a lot of runners on, and I think we did at one point have some pretty significant moments late in the game where we left runners on. But this was a game where we oddly, I think, felt in control for a lot of it, especially just leading for most of the way. Or at the very least having it be close. But taking that lead in the top of the 9th to go up 3-2 just end up blowing it. I mean, this is another. I'm not going to sit here and say that this team is close because honestly, I don't think they are.
No.
But this is a team I think that they're going to be totally different by the end of the season. But for now, it's really going to be rough to watch as they try and figure it out. Dylan Phillips kind of started to figure it out this game. He had an RBI, 2 of 5 at the plate, but he still had 2 strikeouts. Still
next game is when he really figured it out.
Yeah.
But other than that, there's no real notable offensive statistics. Blake Adams had one heck of a day
Phenomenal
as a starter.
Game. Phenomenal game from the starting pitching from Blake Adams.
Yeah, 7 2/3, 4 hits, 2 runs, both earned, 2 walks, 12 strikeouts with a total of 29 batters faced on 105 pitches. That is
excellent performance
amazing.
From Blake Adams. You cannot ask for better from your starting pitcher. I mean, a quality start from Blake Adams. A normal day, you're hoping 5 to 6, couple, maybe 3 or 4 runs, especially with good run support.
Yeah.
But 12 strikeouts to just 2 walks and only 2 earned through 7 2/3. And keeping 7 2/3 to 105 is really impressive. And then the backups, the relievers come in, I should say. Neighbors really had a rough outing, which he's a far cry from that first time that we saw him against Arizona, where he came in and had 3 phenomenal strikeouts.
And we'll go into, whenever we're recapping the entire series, we'll talk about what exactly went wrong, which is why I don't want to spend more than like 5 minutes on stats. But that said, Tyson Neighbors has a killer slider, but he has next to no control of it. He ended up walking 5 people. Tyler Rule ended up coming in relief. Gave up a single run, unearned. Nick Goodwin should not be a shortstop. I will say that right now. Nick Goodwin should not be playing shortstop. He should be playing third or second base. He's not a natural shortstop. He does not have the fluidity nor the arm accuracy for it, because that shortstop is a much harder throw than at third base. Source, I played both. But it's just, this was a really tough game, and one that ended up going into extras, in which we just completely self-inflicted errors ended up losing. So we ended up losing this game 3-2. Then the next game, it doesn't get better. We ended up losing 2-1 with our lone run coming in the 4th inning. And Connor McCullough gets pinned with the loss this game. Absolutely does not deserve it. Absolutely. There's an old adage that I will always reference, that 3 runs in a quality start, that's not the pitcher's fault. 4, you're in the middle ground. 5, yes, you can start blaming the pitcher. Connor McCullough went out there, 6 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts, 1 wild pitch, with a total of 25 batters faced on 94 pitches. That is a quality start. For those who don't know, quality start is 6 innings, fewer than 3 runs, or fewer or equal to 3 runs. It's called a quality start because that is when you start expecting your offense to be able to carry you, because that is the pitcher essentially doing all that they can at that point, other than throwing a shutout or a perfect game, which I don't expect at the college level. No. But
and then Griffin Hassel also was really good in relief as well. He didn't have a lot of strikeouts or walks, but I mean, he was just forcing outs, flyouts, groundouts. Only 1 hit in 2 innings, 22 pitches to go through 7 batters, which is excellent. So just the 2 strikeouts to 1 walk in 2 innings for Griffin Hassel. So the pitching staff was excellent in this second game, holding Bakersfield to 2 runs, but the bats were just awful this game.
And then the bats go. We can go down the order here. Dominic Hughes ended up not getting a hit. Dominic Johnson didn't get a hit. Josh Nikoloff didn't get a hit. Dylan Phillips had a single hit. It was a pretty decent hit. I'll give him that. Justin Mitchell had 1 hit and was the lone drove-in run. Cash Rugeley, 1 for 4 and had an error. Again, Cash Rugeley's really having trouble figuring it out at first base.
He had 2 errors, actually. So
yeah, he's having problems figuring it out at first base. Nick Goodwin went 3 for 4, so it was a good day for Nick Goodwin. Cole Johnson, 0 for 4. Kellen Culpepper, 0 for.
Yeah, Culpepper did get hit by 2 pitches. He's been phenomenal at getting hit by pitches, if that's a skill.
Yeah, that is actually a genuine skill, and he's been one of the most consistent parts of our team because he plays really consistently good defense. He's an all-right hitter, good at getting on base, and he's just been pretty much the lone consistent piece of our team.
Which is hilarious that the 9-hole hitter is oddly one of the most reliable guys, and he doesn't even really hit.
No.
Like, he doesn't hit. I don't think he's really registered a hit since the first game against Arizona, but he gets on base.
Yeah,
to quote Moneyball.
Get on base.
He just gets on base. I've really liked Dom Johnson as well. This is probably his lone really poor game all season. He's had some head-scratching moments, but he's been a pretty reliable hitter for the most part. But this was a down game for him. At least putting the ball in play, only 1 strikeout. That's my biggest gripe with this team normally, is they strike out a lot. That and then Cole Johnson had 2 strikeouts, left 3 on base as well. So, I mean, this was a completely winnable game yet again, but 2 defensive errors, just unable to figure it out. I say defensive errors as if there's another sort.
Really funny, but. Yeah, and then the last game of the series against Cal State Bakersfield, we actually ended up winning. We saved all of our offense for this game. Ended up winning 8-2, 12 hits, 1 error for us. I don't remember, but I have a feeling that the 1 error was Nick Goodwin. Am I correct? No, it was Kalen Culpepper.
Yeah. Rare L for
the moment I say.
I think that there have been a few moments where there have been some errors that maybe have not been properly attributed.
Yeah.
Like Cole Johnson probably should have had one in one of the games in the
there was the Michigan game.
The Michigan game, he gave up I think 2 runs on that.
Mm-hmm.
But just another for the first time really this year, good showing. Although it got off to a horrid start. Literally a horrid start. I'll go through this. Christian Rubeck. He's had a really strange beginning to his K-State career. He's the day 3 starter right now. He was supposed to start against Auburn back in the State Farm Classic, and then didn't. And instead, somebody else pitched for the first about 1 1/3. I don't remember who it was, but then Rubeck came in and pitched about 3 innings and just absolutely blew it open and was awful. This game, he had, I don't know if it could have been worse, unfortunately for him. He ended up pitching 0 innings despite starting.
Yep.
He gave up 2 runs, both earned, 4 walks with a wild pitch and 4 batters faced, and 21 pitches was able to completely derail the game. We'll go through the box. 3-0 walk, advance to second on wild pitch. 3-0 walk, advance to second, and advance to third on a pass ball. Full count walk. Then 3-1 walk with a walk, a run home. And then we took him out. But he still gets credit with the other run, with a reach on a fielder's choice that was out of home, and then a sac fly to center field. Because keep in mind, there were no outs registered before Rubeck came out.
Yep.
And then they get the other run to score from third, and then a foul out to catcher. But horrid start. But we're going to consider this guy the true starter, Blake Corsantino, because he was excellent.
Yep.
7 2/3, 5 hits, 1 walk to 2 strikeouts, only 1 hit by pitch, 28 batters faced, 84 pitches thrown for 7 2/3. So he gets the win, obviously. And it was just absolutely phenomenal. Not really a strikeout guy, but 8 flyout, 11 groundouts. Excellent stuff. He effectively was the starter, and at one point, it was looking like it was going to be a complete game shutout from Blake Corsantino, and he didn't even start. So, but
he had enough pitches to work with where he probably could have gone for the complete game.
I'd imagine just since he's a reliever, he just had nothing left in the tank after 84. Which is fair, but I really wanted to see him just for the meme of it.
Yeah.
Just like go all the way. But Landry Jurecka came in, pitched 1 1/3, had a strikeout, 1 hit by pitch, faced 5 batters and 15 pitches, forced a fly out and ground out. Quality outing for Jurecka to close it. And we can move into
The offense.
Yeah, the offense.
We had doubles from Dom Johnson and Justin Mitchell, a triple from Cole Johnson, and then the second home run in this season for Dylan Phillips.
First and second.
First and second. I meant to say the first two. Because, Dylan Phillips was, at the opening of the season, I think he was kind of feeling the yips because he was expected to be the guy on offense, which, if Nick Goodwin had a better season, like end of his season last year, or actually probably everything except for the last 3 games, he was consistently okay. But Dylan Phillips probably wouldn't have the insane expectations that was put on him. But now he has those hits, he has those home runs, he has the first 2 out the way. So hopefully that helps him get his confidence a little bit in.
Yeah, but he had a really, really, really nice day with the 2 runs. But, it was really good. Dom Johnson also was really good.
He must be scratching something off the monitor.
No, I was going to mention him anyways.
Okay.
But with the 2 hits in 5 at-bats in a run, he nearly hit one out over the left field wall. I think it bounced off the wall.
Yeah.
Justin Mitchell continues his quietly good season with 2 for 4 with an RBI. He also got hit by a pitch, and he had a double as well. And then also it stands to mention that Blake Adams, the starting pitcher from 2 days prior, actually started as a DH this game.
Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, and he went 2 of 4. He did have 2 strikeouts, and also he very, very unfortunately had a very easy single, got halfway to second, and then probably would have made it, honestly, and then decided to try and turn on a heel and go back to first and was out by a mile. Yeah. And then so that was, he's learning the ropes, I guess, as a batter, not used to doing that. Cole Johnson was 1 for 3 with the RBI, a walk as well. Culpepper, unfortunately, did not reach. He didn't strike out either, so at least he's making contact, so he'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about the true freshman, especially as long as he's not committing too many fielding errors. And even then, the error that was credited to him, I believe I know when that happened, and I'm not too upset about it because it was a play it was a pretty difficult play to make where he prevented it from going to the outfield, and it would have resulted in more runs coming around, but instead he was able to halt that. And
so it was one of those errors that the scorer did just because it touched his glove.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened. But Cats finally getting the win column with this one.
Yeah, our first victory. Then we follow it up by losing to Cal State Fullerton, which, granted, this was a better game. Then after this game, we'll talk about the few issues that we've noticed so far with the entire team.
Yeah.
But we ended up losing, like I said, to Cal State for Fullerton. Just, this is getting ridiculous. This is, I hate to be the kind of person that says figure it out. Baseball is I think the second only sport that I can think of, one of 2 sports that I can think of, where the phrase figure it out is genuinely constructive criticism that is valid.
Yeah. What's the other one?
Probably soccer. Or track. Maybe one of those 2.
Yeah.
Because I feel like baseball is the most, though. Baseball and softball. That'll be my final 2 answers.
Yeah.
Because there's not really much coaching that you can do to Division I athletes. It's mostly luck anyway. But, yeah, this was a game that, again, K-State lost. This was the inverse of the couple of games that we've had before in that our starting pitching is actually kind of what failed us. And that Wesley Moore was the starter on the day. Ended up giving up 3 earned runs, 4 walks, 3 strikeouts. We'll get into the walks and strikeouts later. Then Herman Ferrardo ended up entering. He had a pretty decent day, only had 1 run. It was unearned with 5 strikeouts. Then Griffin Hassel gave up 2 runs, 3 hits, 2 strikeouts. Then Tyler Rule came in relief, gave up a single run unearned. Who would have thought we gave up an unearned run with a strikeout with 3 total batters faced? So the pitching staff didn't have the worst day in history. They just didn't have that good a day, which you can see by giving up 7 runs.
Yeah, especially the relievers. They weren't awful, truly, but it was the starting pitching that really was struggling, which granted it's midweek starting pitcher. You're getting pretty deep in your rotation at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, then you get to batting. And, they put up 5 runs, but, you Orlando Salinas, he gets caught stealing. There was 2 doubles in this game as well. Dom Johnson and Nick Goodwin each had one. Dom Johnson goes 1 for 4. He does get walked, and he only strikes out once. Brady Day goes 1 of 3, starting at third base, giving Kalen Culpepper a break finally. Then he does score a run. And then Justin Mitchell goes 2 of 3 in this game as well with a run. So, good for him. And then Dylan Phillips, 1 for 3 with a walk and a strikeout in this one. Nikolov, 1 of 4 with an RBI. Goodwin had 3 RBIs in this one, 1 of 4, and scored a run. So good for him, at least batting. And then Cole Johnson, really rough game batting again. He has been really struggling to start this season, Cole Johnson, both offensively and defensively. Orlando Salinas, 2 of 3 with an RBI. And then you just kind of go down the list here. It's a lot of pinch hitting guys that really do a lot. Rafael Pelletier gave Justin Mitchell a break from squatting all day and went 1 of 3 behind the plate. Mitchell was just DHing.
Yeah. And then we had another defensive error. It was Nick Goodwin because, like I said, I like Nick Goodwin as a player, and he seems like a decent enough dude, but he's not a natural shortstop. He had 2 errors on the day, so make that, I think, 4 on the season.
Yeah.
He's not a natural shortstop. He was a pretty decent defensive third baseman last year, as I remember, and I think they rotated him a little bit at second.
I think he played second mainly because it was Cam Thompson normally at third.
I think they would switch off.
Okay.
But he was a decent defender on both of those positions. Unfortunately, he got put in the most difficult defensive position in the infield at shortstop, and I'm not sure if he just hasn't had the time to adjust or if he's just not cut out for the position, but right now he just does not look like a natural fluid shortstop.
No, it's been rough, and he's been pretty up and down at the plate. You can't say he's been outright bad. He's had his good games, like this one he had 3 RBI, but it's been really rough fielding the ball for Nick. He's a far cry from his hot start last season.
Because he looked like he was going to be freshman of the year.
Yeah,
at the beginning of last season.
Yeah, especially nationally, he looked like it. I think he ended up being baseball freshman of the year, maybe, but he definitely down the stretch struggled, especially in the middle of the season. But he kind of figured it out by Big 12 tournament. Mm-hmm. But this team is not the batting team of last year. The pitching woes are going to catch up to them a lot more, just because they're not driving out of the park as much. We don't have power hitters 1 through 5, unfortunately, anymore.
Yeah.
At the very least, they haven't shown it yet. Dom Johnson's gotten really close a few times. Mitchell has gone yard. Dylan Phillips finally seemed to find his power hitting in the final game against Bakersfield. But, yeah, going out, losing 2 of 3 to Bakersfield, losing a lone game against Fullerton, it's getting really rough right now. The Cats are 1-6 at the moment, and they are desperate for just a series win at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a long season, but it's really rough right now, and they have a long way to go.
Yeah, and we're not giving up on this team. It is way too early to give up on this team. It is not too early to point out issues they have, but it's too early to give up on them. And before we go into the issues that we think are plaguing the team, they have a series this weekend against Loyola Marymount, which is their final series in California, before they ended up having their home opener against Nebraska, who's projected to win the Big Ten. That's not going to be an easy game this coming Tuesday.
Not at all.
That's not a gimme, especially when the team that is projected to finish second schwacked us in Texas.
Yeah.
In Michigan. So, the number one issue that I've noticed with this team is that outside Corsantino, we do not have a single strike thrower. We exclusively have power pitchers, which basically means power pitching is you're exclusively going for strikeouts. And I know there's been a recent movement in the majors of the 3 true outcome baseball. I'm a boomer, so I do not believe that is legitimate. I do not believe that the 3 true outcomes of baseball are strikeout, walk, or home run. I don't believe that. And it's worse at the college level. At the college level, you're not going to be able to prevent some of the offense. You can't do it. You can try to mitigate it by having at least 2 or 3 people in your pitching staff that are not going to blow people away. They're going to be strike throwers, they're going to be zone fillers, and they're going to try and get ground outs, fly outs, try anything in their power to avoid sharp contact and insane launch angles. That's their game, which is why every single MLB staff, even the people that are embracing 3 true outcome baseball, they have at least 1 or 2 sinker ballers in their roster because they want to get those ground outs. They want to have someone runner on first. Oh, we can get a double play here. Oh, runner on first and second, we can limit the damage by making sure that there's no hard contact to a gap. The problem is that our pitching staff, specifically our bullpen, because outside of Corsantino, who I think will end up working his way into being a spot starter now, given that he's shown the acclination for it, we have no strike throwers that we've seen. We have a bunch of power pitchers who are going to try and fool people. Problem is their control isn't developed yet, so they're going to end up hitting people, giving up a lot of walks, and outside of that, you just can't do that in the college game.
Yeah, we're lucky that we have Blake Adams and Connor McCullough as well in the starting.
And those
rotation.
are examples of those are examples of power pitchers who have had the chance to develop their control a bit more.
Yep.
Which our bullpen is young. Tyson Neighbors is a true freshman this year. He has an absolutely insane slider. That it has some of the most insane snap I've ever seen to a slider. I thought it was a curveball at first, because curveballs are more known for their sudden snap, especially drop curves, which 12-6, whatever you call it. That's what Kershaw made his career off of, was that insane 12-6 curveball that just fell out of the stratosphere. Tyson Neighbors has an insane slider. His fastball needs work. He needs to develop a tertiary pitch. He doesn't have one right now. He has fastball slider. He's not Matt Grilly. He
needs more.
He's not Jason Grilly in the majors.
I don't even think they'll let you have 2 pitches and then it'll be the show.
No, they don't.
Which is the extent of my knowledge. So.
There's 2 pitchers that they had that I remember in my entire lifetime them letting have 2 pitchers. It's Jason Grilly, and that's because his slider was insane and he could still throw mid-90s. I don't even remember the other one. Point being, you need to have more than 2 pitches, and if you are going to have 2 pitches, you need to mix in the break with the control of it. Because in high school, you can get away with throwing, not aiming. In college, you can't. That's not what you just can't do that in college.
Yeah, and we've seen what happens when the control is there for the slider. When he does that, he will strike out an All-American and 2 players on one of the best teams in America, aka Arizona.
Yeah.
However, when the control's not there, which has been effectively every other time that we've seen him, it's going to be walk, 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 walk. Just constant walking. Really not giving up a lot of hits because his stuff is borderline unhittable.
Yeah, his stuff is great. He just can't control it.
Yeah, which, granted, true freshman, very, very, very young. But if he's going to be thrust into the spotlight like this and be pitching as much as he is, he needs to have more control. We can't just go out there and cross our fingers and say, well, I hope it's there today.
Yeah. He needs a changeup. That's what he needs.
Yep.
Because I'm not a coach. I was a pitcher for a few years. My repertoire was 2-seam fastball, circle changeup, and then slurve, which was basically just a weird gripped slider. I lived off of those 3 pitches, not because I was a strikeout pitcher, but for the lone reason of if I can get them off balance if you can get them off balance as a pitcher, it doesn't matter if you strike them out or not because you can get them in a weak contact. And whenever you have exactly 2 pitches, both of which power pitches, power pitchers are like 4-seam fastball, curveballs, sliders, basically any pitch that if you leave it in the middle of the zone, it has a 50-50 shot of ending up on the moon. If you don't have any secondary pitches that are meant to induce soft contact, which is why I had a 2-seamer instead of a 4-seamer. It broke down. If you don't have a down-breaking pitch or something to change it, like a changeup or a sinker, or if you have a sinking action to your fastball naturally, you're not going to survive because it's just you have a 50-50 shot of walking, home run, or strikeout. If you're trying to embrace 3-outcome baseball in college, I'm sorry, you're not going to do that. These aren't major league players.
Yeah, if you're going to be doing that, you better be bringing in top 10 recruiting classes yearly, and we're not at that point yet. P. Hughes is upping recruiting. It's getting a lot better, but we're nowhere close to that. Luckily, Jackson Wentworth should be getting healthy here in the next few weeks, and as we know, he's very similar to Jordan Wicks, except that he's a right-hander, and that he has phenomenal off-speed stuff. Change-up slider is just absolutely disgusting on him. One of the best pitching prospects in the country. So hopefully he'll be able to slide in early as a long reliever and transition into that day 3 starter behind Adams and McCullough, which at that point I will be very comfortable with our starting rotation, because right now Rubeck, I'd imagine he's probably going to be removed from the starting lineup, because in our 2 times that we've seen him, he has been really bad thus far. And Wentworth, if he can have it under control, which there's no reason to think that he won't with how highly regarded he is, then I'm really looking forward to seeing him. Hopefully he's healthy by the time we play Nebraska, because that's honestly, I would just start him that game.
Yeah, I would just start him. Actually, I'd put him in at setup man for Neighbors, and then just hope. I'd either put him at setup or long relief and just let Blake Adams do it, because Blake Adams is...
Yeah.
He's dealing.
Yeah, which he'll be pitching the day that this episode is released, Friday, against Loyola Marymount. So hopefully we're able to keep it to a low pitch count. Maybe he'd be ready to go against Nebraska. Honestly, that's a game where you might want to just push for him to start anyways and then give him the weekend off, just because it's such a huge game. Nebraska is a quality opponent, very high quality opponent, that could get out of hand really fast if you're not putting your best out there. I mean, this isn't just some midweek game to write off. Like last year when we were playing Arkansas Pine Bluff and putting up 14 in the first inning.
Yep.
It is not one of those games.
Which, while funny, it's not one of those games.
It's not one of those games. Nebraska, they're good enough where they could do that on us.
Yeah.
So.
At home.
Yes.
Then the other problem, it's a lot shorter of an explanation. We're not hitting in the clutch.
Yeah.
Which, figure it out. That's the only thing you can say.
I think a lot of it, honestly, is our hitting strategy. We're
hit bombs or die.
Unbelievably aggressive batting team. I love being aggressive. I really like that philosophy, but we're aggressive to a fault. We're actively hurting our chances of winning by being aggressive for the sake of being aggressive, it feels like.
Yeah.
Because right now, our bats haven't proven that you can just go out there and swing, because instead we're just inflating the other team's strikeout numbers right now, is basically what's happening. It's getting a little bit better recently. Dylan Phillips not striking out anywhere near as much as he was early in the year.
Yeah.
But still, we are striking out at a completely unsustainable rate at the plate. Granted, when we get a hold of them, they're long gone.
Yeah.
Dylan Phillips hit some bombs in the last day against Bakersfield. But again, that's 1 win out of 7 games. That's awful. That's horrible. I mean, like it's embarrassing, especially considering like how highly thought of this team was coming into this year. This team have Omaha aspirations, and the only time that they've really matched up to that is the Arizona game, and that was the first game of the year, and they weren't able to recover for 5 games after that, and then they came back and played a really poor game against Fullerton. Granted, they're really missing Terrence Sperlin right now, I think, at first base.
Yeah.
And also was contacted. He's one of the very few like primary contact hitters in the lineup. And he's really good at that. And he got hurt in the first game of the season, so hopefully he's able to come back. They're missing Wentworth for pitching depth right now. And they're also missing consistency from Wes Moore, because right now this team, left-handed pitching, there's not a lot there. Pretty much every quality pitcher on this team is a right-hander, at least every known commodity pitcher. So, but it's going to be, at this point, it's looking like it's going to be a really rough year, because after the first few games, I was like, you know what? Those are really good teams. Those are all probably NCAA tournament teams. And
they still are.
Yeah, and they still are. Especially Arizona and Michigan. But we're at the point where they really, like you said, they need to figure it out. I hate saying that because it's the least useful advice on earth, but that's truly the best thing that I can say is to figure it out, because this season is in danger of getting out of hand very fast, and this is a team that got snubbed from the NCAA tournament last year, and it's quickly reaching the point where we're not even going to be in the conversation, and we're not even going to be in the conversation of being snubbed. And there's still time to turn that around, I think, because there's a lot of quality players in this team, and there's players in this team that were quality last year that we know of. Dylan Phillips, he's finally starting to figure it out. Nick Goodwin, he's been pretty consistent offensively, but defensively has a lot of work to do at the shortstop position. Cole Johnson has work to do. Orlando Salinas still needs to get comfortable in his first base role, which granted, switching positions mid-season, at the very beginning of the season. I am not jealous. I'm not jealous of him.
I don't blame him.
Justin Mitchell, I actually don't have any complaints about Justin Mitchell. He's been really good.
Yeah.
Dom Johnson's also been pretty good, save for a few defensive blunders. Nikolov needs to find it out batting. So does Rugeley. Relief pitching needs to figure it out.
Culpepper's been all right.
Culpepper has been all right. I completely forgot about him because he's not in this lineup. But Culpepper, love to see a little bit more hitting production out of him. But for a true freshman, I have very few complaints right now. If
Take
any.
it. I'll take it.
I'll absolutely take what he's given us. Good on you, Kalen. But there is talent on this team, but it is not being translated into wins right now. And that is ultimately the deciding factor. Because 5 years down the line, if this very talented team does not translate that talent into wins, we're not going to be sitting here qualifying the statement of, well, they had an awful record with, well, they were so talented.
They were so talented. Yeah, no one, everyone will just remember the record.
But I will still be holding out hope that this team can figure it out.
Yeah, I do as well, just because we can't regress that bad. There's no way it goes that bad.
Knock on wood.
But that pretty much wraps up this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. Thank you all for listening. If you want to follow us or contact us on social media, we are at Aggieville Alleycats on Twitter. That's capital A, and capital C in cats. If you want to email us, we are AggievilleAlleycats@gmail.com. If you want to follow us on a more personal note, I am at ACEdward00.
I am at Connor Baltazar, capital C, capital B.
And if you want to support the show financially, please be sure to visit our official Aggieville Alleycats merch store, where we have such designs as Neon Alleycats and Play Sandstorm Cowards. But most importantly, thank you all for listening to this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. Where come rain, shine, or anything in between, we're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news that you so love. Stay safe, Alleycats.